So last night I tried the 1.0 update for Smalland, and in this video I'm going to let you know if it's worth playing right now. So like I try to do in these videos, I will let you know up front if all you care about is a yes or no, whether you should play it. I'm going to tell you straight up front. For those of you that want more information, stick around till the end so you can make your decision. But I will say this, if you've played the game up until the 1.0 release and you've done most of the content, should you play the game? Yes, because you can actually finish the story now. So I think if you've invested that amount of time into the game, you should put a couple more hours into it and finish the game. If you've never played Smalland before, I would say I would hold off and wait at least another 6 months until they make the balance changes and some of the improvements they're going to be making to the game over the next couple of updates. So if that's all you cared about, make sure you hit the like button, leave a comment for the algorithm. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. For everyone else that wants more information and you kind of want more like the positives and negatives of my experience and why I recommend playing it or why I recommend not playing it, depending on if you played the game before, let's get into that right now. So let's start off with the positives. The positives are you can finish the story. So the new update added the end of the story, so you can actually roll the credits. So if you've played up to this point, if you played up to any point in early access and you want to finish the story and see what happens, you can actually finish the game right now. The game, if you're new and have never played it before, will give you probably about 40 hours of gameplay if you're playing by yourself, and that really depends on, I guess, how much time you spend doing side stuff, which would be building bases and just how much resource gathering you do. If you just focus on the story and follow it along and do what you're supposed to do, you'll probably get roughly about 40-ish hours out of it. If you're playing in a group, it's probably going to be a lot faster. And then another great positive of this game is the building on the great trees. So I've not seen this in other games. I'm sure maybe it exists in some other games. I just haven't played them, but no game I've ever played before allows you to build your base and then go to another location and just have the entire base just move there. So what Smalland does is it has great trees. You can build on top of them. You're safe from getting attacked up there. You build your base, and then there's great trees scattered around the map. When you go to a new area, instead of having to build a brand new base, you can just transfer your base all the way over there by claiming the tree, and your entire base with all your resources and everything will move to that tree. So you can just hop around and not have to spend a lot of time building bases. Now, if you want to build a new base in a bunch of different places, you can certainly do that, but it seems like the system's really designed so that you can kind of progress around the map and not have to go traveling back and forth and doing that. So those are the positives, and there were only a couple of them, but let's get into the things that I did not like about the 1.0 update. First and foremost is the new tutorial system. So I started a new save and to see kind of what the beginning of the game was like, and I was fully expecting it to be very similar to what I played when I played the game back when it first released into early access. That's not the case. When you first started back in the early access, or even up until this update, you started off inside of a little cave area. You wandered through it. There were the owl effigies that told you kind of what was going on in the game, what you needed to do. They gave you some tips and tricks. You made your way out to the first NPC, who would kind of guide you to where you needed to go talk to the next NPC. That guy would also make you armor and stuff like that. And the starting area was safe because there was no enemies in it. When I booted up a new save in the 1.0 update of Smalland, I was started off on a different part of the map. It was close to where the tutorial area was, but I did not really realize that because the map is kind of hard to navigate, in my opinion. Even looking at it, when you can see the full map, it's like when you have the map unlocked, getting from point A to point B is not always straightforward because there's a lot of verticality in the game and you can't always just get where you want to get. So what happens is you start in a new area. I talk to the NPC that's there. He tells me to go talk to somebody else. So I look at the map and see where that person is, and I start trying to make my way over there. Now, there's a set path you're supposed to follow with owl effigies, but I quickly ended up deviating from that path because I saw some resources, and then I looked for a great tree because I know that I need to build on top of one of the great trees. So I found the first great tree that I saw, beelined it for that, went up there and claimed it, came down from the tree, and the tree that I built on was surrounded by hornets. There were ants all over the place. There were Sawyer beetles. There was just literally every type of enemy that's going to be dangerous early in the game around where I built. And what I found out was I didn't follow the tutorial like I was supposed to. I didn't follow the path because it wasn't, I mean, there was a path, but like it was very easy to get distracted off of it. And it wasn't like the original tutorial where you would just like, literally for the first 5 or 10 minutes, followed a linear path and it kind of guided you through the game. So the new tutorial system, I think, might throw some people off because you're kind of just thrown into like an area, and if you just deviate off that path even slightly, which is pretty easy if you're not paying attention, you're going to end up just getting destroyed, and I think that's going to turn a lot of people off. Another new system that I thought originally could be cool is the leveling system. So you can level your character. I also believe you can level mounts. I did not try to do that yesterday yet, but leveling myself up, I feel like the leveling system could have been a good idea, but in reality, it ends up just feeling like you were nerfed. And this is something similar that happened when I played Grounded. When they Grounded, they added the weapon and armor upgrades. What they did was they nerfed the base stats of those pieces of gear in order to have like basically make you level them up and upgrade them to get back to where they were before. That's what it feels like they've done in Smalland. It feels like your movement speed is pedestrian when you start out. Like you are literally barely moving when you're. I made my character like a little fat guy just as a joke because I made it kind of look like how I look right now, and I felt like I was literally moved like I do in real life because I haven't done a lot of running lately. I could barely move. Like I was like running and I felt like I was not moving at all. So the leveling system, it feels like it was well intentioned, and if you've already played the game and put a bunch of time into it, you'll probably be able to level up really quickly because you can just go around slaughtering a bunch of bugs, get all your XP up, and you'll catch up. But if you're new to the game, the leveling system is going to be super punishing. Your stamina is going to be super low. Your run speed is going to be super low. It just doesn't feel like it was implemented with new players in mind. And I feel like this is something, like, again, I'm going to go back to Grounded, because in Grounded, when I continue to save after they added the upgrade systems, it didn't, like, when the 1.0 came out, I had so many resources on an existing save that none of the changes that were made over time really affected me. But when you start a new save, that's when you can kind of feel the impact. So it almost feels like the developers of Smalland kind of did the same thing, and they didn't take into account starting over at the beginning and seeing how the leveling system is so punishing. So there were two things that I was looking for in the 1.0 update for Smalland that I was hoping would be addressed, because they were two of the reasons I really stopped playing the game and didn't finish all the content when it first came out. That's the combat and the movement. The combat in Smalland allows you to attack, you can dodge roll. They did have the ability to perfect block or parry, but unlike in other games, for me at least, it wasn't really obvious when I needed to perfect block all the time. Sometimes I did it, sometimes I didn't. Blocking in the game is very slow, so if you try to block and you mistime it, and you're just not gonna be able to block again to get that perfect block in. Also, a lot of times the creatures that are attacking you will kind of like clip into the ground a little bit, and then you can't even read their attacks. So the combat, and it just overall is, the combat is just not good. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's far below average in terms of combat, even for a survival game. I was really hoping it would get an overhaul. There's no plans for it on the roadmap for getting an overhaul. So if you play it and like very quickly you'll see the combat, if it's not something you like, it's not going to change throughout the game. It's the same combat system all the way through, and it's just not very good. The movement is very floaty. It feels almost like when you're moving, especially when you jump, it feels like you're in like low gravity or something like that. So you'll end up, if you don't have a glider, which you will not have at the beginning of the game, you will end up dying a lot from fall damage. There's a lot of verticality in the game, and what happens is if you try to get down, you'll end up falling. You'll try to jump on things that you can't jump on. Like there might be leaves you think you can land on. Guess what? You're going to go straight through them because they're just like a visual prop there, and you go straight through them and die. And so the movement is just still not that great. It's not responsive. It's not really, it doesn't feel tight or anything like that. And I just really don't like the movement system. I'm really upset that they did not update the combat or movement at all. And there's no plans for doing that. And doing a complete overhaul on that seems like it's unlikely. So you'll know in the first like hour or so whether or not you like the combat or movement. And you can kind of judge the rest of the game for that. In addition to that, most bugs and creatures are aggressive. So like I said, when the game first came out in early access, you would just get started in a tutorial area. You'd wander around and be pretty safe. You would come across an ant or two. In the new game, you're going to be dropped in, and if you don't follow that, even if you do follow the path that's intended for you, there's going to be quite a few enemies along the way. Almost every enemy that you'll run into early game is going to, or every creature you run into, with the exception of like ladybugs and butterflies, they're going to attack you. There's ants everywhere. There's bull ants pretty close to the start. There's Sawyer beetles. There are hornets. There's literally every kind of dangerous bug you can imagine. And if you get even remotely close to them, they will aggro you and they will chase you down relentlessly. They can walk up pretty much anything to get to you. You have to just run in a straight line forever for them to just de-aggro. Next up is going to be the world events. So I thought the world events could be a cool addition to the game. And from what it looks like, unless they scale up over time, the world, or maybe there's different variations depending on how long you play. The world events are essentially, here's a group of, it pops up on the map, you go over there, there's going to be a group of bugs, whatever they are, or creatures. You kill them and you get points that you can put towards a faction. There's 4 factions in the game. It takes 1,000 points to get like maximum reputation with a faction, but you also need those points for other things. Early in the game, at least, unless this scales up, you're only going to get about 6 points from clearing a world event. And if that means you need to get 1,000 points, I'm going to let you do the math on that. Divide 1,000 by 6 and see how many world events you're going to need to do to get max reputation. It is a super grindy system, and unless it scales up significantly over time, it's just not going to be worth doing. So for those of you, like I said, that have played the game up to 1.0, or maybe you played a lot up to 1.0, The positive that I said earlier is you can finish the game. The downside is going to be there is very little new content that was added since the most recent update. You're going to be able to, if you've done everything up until 1.0, you're going to be able to finish the new content, the new story content, in just a few hours. Even if you've done most of the content or like half the content up until 1.0, you're going to be able to finish the game really quickly. So there's not a lot of new story content. It does say they're going to expand the map in the future, but kind of feels like a letdown. Like another game that I played where here's the 1.0 release and the game just kind of has like a quick abrupt ending after all the new with the new content from 1.0 going the new content at 1.0. Another thing that I'm kind of concerned about that I was originally positive on was the fact that they were going to be doing updates after 1.0, and a couple of those updates, the first couple are going to be balance changes to crafting or an overhaul to crafting and taming. And my big concern is, why would you overhaul two major systems that are in the game after 1.0 and not do those before you 1.0? So the fact that they're going to be making balance changes after the fact just leads me to believe that maybe the game wasn't ready to release, but they did it for some reason. And then last but not least, this is going to affect some of you because the game did release on, it was originally only on PC. Now it's available on Xbox Series X and S as well as on PlayStation 5. There's currently no crossplay. The crossplay is planned for a later update sometime later this year. So if crossplay is something you're interested in, because maybe you have a friend that's on a different platform, there's no crossplay right now. So that's why I would say hold off on playing it. So overall, what are my thoughts on the game? Like I said before, if you played before and you just want to finish the game, go ahead and finish it. You're going to be able to do it in a couple hours. You'll probably be able to do it in one sitting. And then you can just uninstall the game and move on and come back maybe if there's new content added later on. If you've never played the game before, I really think it's probably worth waiting because the game still feels like it's in early access. It feels like the release date should have been 6 months from now after they did these other balance changes. Although, like I said, there's no talk of fixing or improving combat or movement, which is just really not good. And I don't think that's ever going to be changed. So if you don't like what I'm talking about with the combat, if you don't like if you try the game for an hour or two and don't like it, I would definitely refund the game. But right now, I would just say hold off and wait if you've not played it and give it a couple months. Let them put the rest of their updates out to actually get it to what the probably 1.0 state is supposed to be. I really don't know why they released it right now. I checked the Steam numbers. It had less than a peak 1,000 concurrent players yesterday, and it doesn't seem like a lot of people are playing it on console right now either. So I'm not sure why they decided to release it. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Smalland. I don't really like beating up on indie games because I try to support indie games over AAA games nowadays. But this game just really feels like it's still an early access game, and I would just recommend holding off on playing it. So if you found the video helpful, make sure to hit the like button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.